The battlefield of betrayal. The war was over. Smoke still rose from the ground. The battlefield was quiet, filled only with broken weapons, fallen warriors, and the stench of death. Black ash floated through the air like snow. The planet's red sky burned above like a warning that peace would never last. Human soldier Reed Carter stepped carefully over the bodies. His boots crunched on cracked armor and shattered glass. His rifle was slung over his shoulder. He didn't expect to find survivors. He wasn't looking for one, but then he heard something, a sound, low, guttural, like a growl mixed with pain. He turned his head and saw her. Lying half buried under a burning ship wing, an alien female stared back at him with glowing yellow eyes. Her body was covered in blood and dirt. Her armor was cracked and useless. Thick blue liquid oozed from wounds on her arms and back. She looked like a beast, dangerous, broken, and furious. Her name was Zel-Ara, a Vornax warrior. Everyone in the galaxy feared her kind, 7 feet tall, battle-forged, and raised to hate humans. But now she was paralyzed from the waist down. She couldn't move her legs. She couldn't even lift her own weapon. Her lips moved, forming words in a voice that sounded like steel dragging across stone. "Kill Saimi." Reed froze. From behind him, another human soldier called out, "Hey Carter, leave her. She's Vornax trash. Let her rot." Another voice joined in. "Her kind burned our colonies. Don't waste your time." Reed didn't answer them. He walked closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. She tried to lift her claws, tried to stab him, failed. He crouched beside her, seeing her pain, her rage, and something else. She didn't want to die. Not really. He pulled off his backpack and dug through it. A med injector, water, pain patches. She bared her sharp teeth as he reached for her. "Touch me," she hissed, "and I'll bite out your throat." Reed stared into her eyes. "Then bite." He placed the injector on her neck and pressed. She didn't bite. She passed out. Later, the other soldiers watched from a distance as Reed wrapped her in a thermal blanket. They laughed at him, mocked him. "Trying to save a monster, Carter? She'd eat you if she had the strength." Reed ignored them. She was heavier than she looked. Muscle and armor. Still unconscious. He hoisted her onto his back and began walking through the burning field. With every step, memories of the past war echoed in his mind. Friends dying. Vornax, warriors tearing through human defenses, fire everywhere. His brother, gone. Yet here he was, carrying one of them. Why? Even Reed didn't fully know. Maybe it was because he saw something in her eyes, something familiar. A soldier who didn't ask to be born into war, a fighter betrayed by her own side. As the sun disappeared behind smoke-filled clouds, he heard a voice behind him. "Carter," said Captain Ellis, "you've got 5 minutes to get on the evac ship. You bring her with you. You're on your own." Reed didn't stop, didn't speak. He just kept walking, with a broken alien warrior on his back, and the judgment of his entire squad behind him. Inside the evac shuttle, Reed placed her gently on the cold floor. She groaned, barely awake. Her fingers twitched. He sat beside her, pulling off his gloves. "Why?" she whispered, eyes half open. "Why didn't you finish me?" Reed looked at her. His face was calm, but his voice carried weight. "Because I don't kill unarmed people, even if they used to kill mine." Zel-Ara stared at him, confused. No human had ever spoken to her like that. No human had saved her. She had grown up hearing humans were weak, cruel, untrustworthy. But now, lying broken, helpless, one of them had carried her through hell. She wanted to hate him. But her heart, still beating weakly in her chest, didn't agree. As the ship rose from the battlefield and left the war zone behind, a strange silence grew between them. One that was not hatred, not friendship, but something new, something dangerous, something that would change both of their lives forever. She was trained to kill humans. The medical bay inside the orbiting human cruiser was cold and metallic. filled with the constant hum of machines and the scent of disinfectant. Reed sat beside the recovery pod, arms crossed, eyes never leaving the alien inside. Zilara was floating inside a clear stasis tube. Her eyes were closed, her limbs still. The system kept her stable, barely. Human. Doctors refused to help her directly. She was an enemy, a killer. A Vornax elite. They had only agreed to stabilize her because Reed threatened to report them for neglecting a living being in need of aid. But no one touched her. No one except Reed. He cleaned her wounds. He monitored her vitals. And he waited. After 3 days, her eyes opened. Glowing yellow orbs blinked against the artificial light. She moved her head slowly and found Reed sitting near her, reading from a cracked datapad. His arm was still wrapped in a blood-soaked bandage. Her bite. "You still breathe," she rasped. Reed looked up. "So do you. I told you to kill me." Reed stood up and walked closer. "I've never been good at following orders," she growled lowly. "Your species is soft. You pity the enemy." Reed shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe I just see more than most." They moved her to a bed outside the pod. She was too weak to fight. Paralyzed from the waist down, her legs hung useless beneath her. Her pride was gone. Her body felt like a prison. Every breath was pain. Every second felt like failure. She was once a Vornax first fang, trained to lead battle packs against human colonies. Her claws had torn through armor. Her war cries once sent soldiers running. Now a single human held her fate in his hands, and she hated him for it, and feared him too, because he wasn't afraid of her. "You should know," she said, one day as he changed her bandages. "I've killed 37 humans. 2 with my bare hands. 1 was a boy." Reed didn't pause. "I know. That doesn't bother you?" "It does," he said quietly. "But if I hated every Vornax, I'd be just like them hating every human." She narrowed her eyes. "You speak like a philosopher. That's dangerous in war." Reed gave a small smile. "I'm a soldier. I lost a brother to your kind. And yet, here I am." Zilara stared at him. In her mind, she remembered her training. "Humans are weak. They scream when burned. They cry when they lose. Show them no mercy and they will fear you. Kill 1 and 100 will flee." That's what her commander once told her. Never allow a human to touch your skin. Their hands carry lies. Yet this human had carried her, touched her, saved her, and hadn't lied. Later that night she asked him, "Why did you even come to the battlefield? You were supposed to be at the rear." Reed looked at the ceiling. "I went looking for my brother's tags. He died in that sector a week ago. Never found him, but I found you." Zilara went silent. For the first time she felt something strange, guilt. A Vornax warrior was not supposed to feel that. But her chest ached, not from wounds, from memory, from doubt. 2 more days passed. She began speaking more, sometimes mocking him, sometimes questioning him, always testing. "You humans can mate without heat cycles?" "Yes." "That's disgusting." Reed laughed. "Well, you've never had chocolate or whiskey either. You're missing out." She blinked slowly. "What is chocolate?" He opened a ration bar and handed her a square. She sniffed it suspiciously, then licked it. Her eyes widened. And for the first time since they met, she smiled. But peace never lasted. A message arrived. Vornax Command had declared her a traitor for allowing herself to be captured and not dying in battle. There was now a bounty on her head, a large one. Someone would come for her, and soon. That night, Reed stood by her bedside. He had reinforced the medbay door. He had set traps. He had loaded his weapon. She watched him with a strange expression. "You're ready to fight for me?" she asked. Reed looked at her. "I already did." She exhaled slowly. "You're not what I expected, and neither are you." Outside the medbay, footsteps echoed. The bounty hunters had arrived, and the paralyzed warrior, once feared by galaxies, reached for a blade with shaking hands. The jungle of acid rain. The shuttle shook violently as it crashed through the thick atmosphere of planet Varn 6, a backwater jungle world with no real value, except that it was forgotten. Smoke filled the cabin. Reed grabbed the straps above. His alarms blared. The only thing keeping him from flying into a wall was sheer muscle and experience. Below him, Zelara lay strapped to a med stretcher, her sharp eyes fixed on him through the chaos. "Did you mean to land on a death world?" she growled, her voice filled with sarcastic venom. Reed gave a crooked grin, sweat on his brow. "No, I meant to escape. This place just got in the way." Behind them, the bounty hunters had blown up the medbay's docking ring. There was no time for a plan. Just run. Just survive. Now they were falling into hell. The shuttle crash-landed in the middle of the jungle of acid rain, a toxic forest where even the trees could kill. The rain didn't just fall. It hissed. It ate through armor, burned flesh. And it never stopped for long. Reed kicked open the hatch and climbed out. The thick green mist stung his eyes. He rushed back in, unstrapped Zelara, and hoisted her over his back again. "Put me down," she snapped. "This planet will kill you." "It'll kill you faster," Reed replied, stepping onto the steaming ground. The rain began in minutes, fat drops of yellow-green liquid sizzling on contact. Reed threw a camo cloak over both of them, shielding their skin. Beneath it, Zelara's sharp breath tickled his neck. "I smell fear," she whispered. "Good," he said, dodging a vine that writhed like a snake. "Means I'm still alive." She smirked against his shoulder. "You humans are too soft to survive this jungle." He looked back at her, eyes dark with defiance. "Watch me." They reached a fallen tree with a hollow trunk, just wide enough to crawl into. Reed laid her down carefully inside, panting hard. His skin had begun to blister where the acid rain touched through the cloak. He didn't complain. He never did. Zelara studied his burned hands. "You risk your life for an enemy." Reed didn't answer. He pulled a small flask from his belt and poured water into her cracked lips. She drank without protest. "I'm not your enemy anymore," she said quietly. He finally looked at her. "Then stop calling yourself one." That night, the jungle came alive. Monstrous shapes moved between the trees. Red eyes glowed in the darkness. Reed stayed awake, blade in hand, pulse steady. Inside the trees, Zelara lay motionless. Her legs refused to move. Her pride burned worse than the rain. She remembered standing on battlefields, shouting commands. Now she couldn't even shift her weight. A sudden growl echoed nearby. Reed moved fast, silent as a ghost. He hurled a stone toward the sound. A creature pounced on it, and a hidden spike trap impaled it from beneath. Zelara blinked in surprise. "That trap. You built it earlier." He nodded. "Watched an old Earth vid once. Jungle warfare. You learn fast." He gave her a half smile. "I'm still alive. That's the only test that matters." At dawn, the rain paused. For the first time, Reed laid her down on soft moss and opened her chest plate. He connected a small stim pack to her spine. She winced. "What are you doing?" "Jump-starting your nerves," he said. "Temporary fix might help you move your fingers." Electric shocks buzzed into her spine. She grunted but didn't cry out. Moments later, her claws twitched. Reed's eyes lit up. "There. Told you." Zelara looked at her hands. She could feel them again. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "This doesn't mean I trust you," she muttered. "I don't need your trust," Reed said. "Just your will to survive." Suddenly a shadow loomed overhead. A massive alien beast like a centipede the size of a truck descended from the trees. Its jaws snapped toward them. Reed grabbed his knife and stood in front of her. "Human," Zelara shouted. "No weapon will kill that. Guess I'll make it bleed until it changes its mind," Reed growled. The beast lunged. Reed rolled beneath its belly and stabbed upward. The blade sank deep and green blood sprayed. The creature screamed, thrashed and bolted back into the trees, wounded but alive. Reed staggered back, panting hard. Blood splattered across his face. Selara stared at him. No one had ever defended her like that. Not her commanders, not her blood sisters. Only this stubborn, reckless, brave human. You'll die for me, but won't let me go, she said softly. Reed sat beside her, wiping his knife. You're starting to get it. They put a bounty on her head. The jungle was silent again. Not the peaceful kind, the dangerous kind. Reed knew that kind of silence. It always came before something terrible. He crouched by the fireless camp, sharpening a jagged piece of metal into a weapon. They couldn't risk flame or light, not when someone had sold them out. Somewhere beyond the acid fog and predator-filled trees, bounty hunters were closing in, and they weren't just after money. They wanted Zelara's head. She lay propped against a thick root, her armor half melted, her legs still lifeless, but her eyes, sharp, alert, watching him. Your message device, she said. Reed looked over. What about it? Check it. Someone pinged your location. You didn't notice. Reed froze. He reached into his belt pouch and pulled out his comm pad. The screen flickered, signal distorted, but one thing was clear. A trace signal was sent from this exact location, 12 hours ago. His eyes narrowed. That wasn't me. It wasn't me either, Zelara replied. You think I'd call my executioners while stuck in the dirt? Reed didn't answer. He slowly turned and stared at the tiny medical drone behind her, still active, floating quietly. Then he cursed under his breath. It was the damn auto drone, he muttered. When I connected your stim pack, it sent out a health report and location. She hissed in frustration. So now they all know where I am. Not they, Reed said. Everyone. Within the hour, the jungle trembled with distant motion. Thuds, footsteps, hovercraft hums, multiple signals coming closer from all directions. Zelara clenched her teeth. You should run, let them take me. Reed picked up a bundle of sharpened sticks. No, you owe me nothing. He looked at her, eyes hard. I owe myself. I left a man to die once because someone told me it was smarter to survive than to be brave. I've hated myself every day since. Zelara blinked. So, this is your redemption? No, he said, shoving traps into the ground. This is my choice. By dusk, the bounty hunters arrived. There were 4 teams, 2 alien mercenary groups, tall, armored, insect-like soldiers with acidic rifles, 1 ex-human privateer group with scarred faces and stolen tech, and 1 Vornax royal assassin unit sent by her own people to clean up the shame. They surrounded the jungle clearing. All pointed weapons toward the fallen warrior. A human mercenary shouted, "Step aside, soldier, you get one chance." Reed stood tall with a jagged spear in hand. She's under my protection, one of the alien hunters laughed. From you? You're alone. A low voice growled from behind. He's not. They turned. Zelara had dragged herself upright against the root, one hand holding a broken blaster, the other gripping a vine to keep balance. Even without working legs, she looked terrifying. The Vornax assassin stepped forward, tall and cloaked. His mask reflected Reed's face. You shame your blood, sister, he said coldly. You let a human touch you, carry you. Zelara spit at the ground. And he's still more warrior than any of you. He aimed his blade at her. You will die now, with your honor erased. Reed's voice cut through the tension. Wrong. He slammed the ground with his foot. A buried trap exploded under the assassin, sending him flying. Chaos followed. Lasers flew. Explosions ripped through trees. Reed fought like a demon, rolling, stabbing, hurling spikes, swinging branches like clubs. His rage was cold, controlled, and precise. Zelara fired from behind cover, taking down 2 mercenaries with clean shots. One of the bounty hunters rushed toward her, thinking she was defenseless. She screamed in Vornax battle tongue, grabbed a fallen blade and stabbed it upward into his gut. Even paralyzed, she was not prey. The battle was brutal. But by nightfall, only Reed and Zelara were breathing. She lay in the mud, blood on her face, smoke in her lungs. Reed collapsed beside her, panting. "You still alive?" and he asked. "Unfortunately," she whispered. He laughed weakly. Then silence. Then a question. "Why'd you fight so hard?" he asked. "You could have let them kill me. Let it end." Zelara turned her head, eyes dim but honest. "Because," she said slowly, "no one ever fought for me. Until you did. Her body is dead, but her mind is a weapon." The bodies were still warm when Reed began digging. His fingers bled as he clawed through jungle mud. No shovel, no tools, just hands and raw will. Zelara watched from the tree's base. Her arms rested on her lap. Her legs, still dead, lay limp in the moss. Her golden eyes didn't blink. "You bury them?" she asked, her voice quieter than usual. Reed kept digging. "They bled in this mud just like us. Some of them were tricked into the bounty. Others were monsters. Doesn't matter. We walk away. They stay." She tilted her head. "That's a human thing, isn't it? Burial, respecting the dead." He paused and looked up. "Maybe. But it reminds me I'm still alive." She said nothing. But deep inside, she felt a flicker of something she didn't yet understand. Later, Reed sat under a slanted tree with a bloodied map spread across a rock. Zelara watched him draw with soot and plant sap. His hands were steady despite exhaustion. "You're planning an escape?" she asked. "No," he replied. "I'm planning a trap." Her eyes narrowed. "You expect more hunters?" "They don't give up after one ambush. That bounty's too big," she smirked. "You plan to fight again?" He looked up. "Not fight. Outthink," and that made her sit forward slightly, because that was her domain. Zelara was once a battle tactician, trained since childhood by Vornak's warlords. While other warriors broke bones and roared in the arena, she studied troop movement, shadow, patterns, atmospheric variables. Her brain was sharper than her blades. And now, her brain was all she had left. "Your escape path is wrong," she said, nodding toward the map. Reed raised an eyebrow. "Really? See this ridge here?" She pointed. "It's not rock. It's an old transport line, half buried. You follow it east, it cuts travel time in half and leads to a relay tower." He stared at her. "How do you know that?" "I remember this jungle," she said. "We used to train here. No one expected the trees to be useful." Reed grinned. "Well, I looks like I just found my commander," she snorted. "Don't insult me." The next 3 days were preparation. Reed built traps, sharper, deadlier, smarter. Zelara gave instructions, timings, angles, decoy patterns. She marked kill zones using burned sticks. Reed marveled at her memory. "You remember details like a machine." "I was a machine," she said. "Now I'm just the voice in your ear." He looked at her with more than respect now. There was awe in his eyes. "Not just a voice," he said. "You're the reason we're still alive." On the 4th night, they heard the engines, distant, fast, circling above the jungle canopy. "New bounty team?" Reed asked. "No," Zelara said coldly. "That sound, it's Vornak's air cavalry." Reed tensed. "Your own people?" She nodded. "They're not coming to arrest me. They're coming to erase you." She looked him dead in the eye, and anyone who helped me. They moved fast. Reed carried her again, but this time they were ahead of the storm. With her directing every move, where to hide, when to move, what not to touch, they avoided the worst. He relied on her instincts, like a soldier relies on breath. They reached an old metal station overgrown with vines. A ruined relay tower. Inside, Zelara guided him to a control panel half buried in roots. "Power this up," she instructed. "You'll have a 10-minute window to send one message." "To who?" "To anyone who owes you." Reed smirked. "Nobody owes me." "Then lie," she said. While he worked, she stared at the broken window. Her reflection warped in the glass. Her body was still a ruin. But for the first time in her life, she didn't feel useless. She felt needed, valued, not for her claws, but for her mind. The air filled with thunder again. Dropships were coming. Reed finished transmitting a distress code to the nearest patrol beacon. "Message sent," he said. 10 minutes till extraction or death." Zelara nodded. 10 minutes is enough. She looked at him with something new in her eyes. Not just fire, not just fight, but partnership. "You ready, Commander?" Reed asked with a grin. She smirked. "Let's make them bleed." The medical facility that denied her. The transport ship landed hard on the landing pad, rattling like a dying engine. Inside, Reed held tightly onto Zelara's stretcher as it slid slightly from the impact. The cargo bay doors opened with a hiss, revealing the metallic corridors of Outpost 9, a neutral med facility orbiting the edge of the disputed sectors. Medical droids rolled forward, but then they stopped. A scanning beam passed over Zelara's face and the alert chimed loud. "Identity match, Vornax War Commander, classified level red. Access denied." The droids backed away. 2 armored guards appeared next, weapons drawn, not to protect but to detain. "Hold it right there," barked a human officer in white armor. "That thing is not authorized for medical access." Reed stepped between them, fists clenched. "She's injured, paralyzed. We fought off Vornax assassins. She risked her life to warn us. She needs help." The officer scowled. "She's a war criminal. We don't help her kind. You brought poison into our walls." "She's not poison," Reed shouted. "She's the reason I'm still alive." Behind him, Zelara lay still, silent, but her eyes watched everything. She had been hated before, feared, respected, but this was new. This was rejection, from the very species she had started to trust. An older doctor approached quietly. Her name badge read Dr. Kira Dalton. She studied the scene. Her eyes flicked to Zelara's broken legs, then to the blood-stained uniform Reed wore. "You carried her?" she asked softly. Reed nodded, out of breath. "Through acid rain, through beasts, through bounty hunters. She saved me. I saved her. That's how it works." Dr. Dalton sighed. "The council won't let her stay," she whispered. "The politics, then damn the politics," Reed growled. "She's Vornax," the officer snapped, "and he's too emotionally compromised to see clearly." Zelara finally spoke, her voice like steel. "Then deny me. I don't care. But know this. When I could have left your soldier to die, I didn't. I chose differently." A silence fell. Not because anyone agreed, but because her words didn't sound like a lie. They sounded like truth, and that made people uncomfortable. "Doctor," Dalton tapped her comm and muttered, "take them to Isolation Wing 4. Quietly. No records." The guards hesitated. "That's against—" "I'll take responsibility," she said. "You want to explain to command why you turned away a war-changing witness?" The guards backed down. Zelara's eyes followed Dr. Dalton as she walked beside the stretcher. "You help enemies now?" the alien asked. The doctor didn't look at her. "I help patients. Not all humans have forgotten how to care." In Isolation Wing 4, Reed sat beside her again as machines scanned her body. Dr. Dalton reviewed the results. "She's lucky," she said slowly. Her spine wasn't severed, just damaged. Badly. "So she can walk again?" Reed asked. "Maybe, with time, with risk." "What kind of risk?" Zelara asked. Dalton met her gaze. "We use nanite injections to rebuild spinal pathways, but they're human-made. Not tested on Vornax biology. It might work, or it might melt your nerves." Zelara didn't hesitate. "Do it." Reed flinched. "Wait, are you sure?" She stared at him. "I didn't come all this way to stay." Broken. The injection began that evening. Zelara gritted her teeth, her body shook. Her claws gripped the side of the bed so hard they cracked the frame. Reed stayed with her, all night, through the seizures, through the fevers, through the silent screaming. When she finally passed out, her fingers twitched, and one toe moved. The next morning, she awoke in silence. Reed was sleeping in a chair, head tilted, arms crossed. She looked down. Her legs still lay limp, but when she focused, her right foot twitched again. She smiled faintly. Not because she was healed, but because she knew now. She would be. Later, Reed woke to find her watching him. "You stayed," she said. "I told you," he replied, rubbing his eyes. "I don't leave people anymore." She studied him for a long moment. "I don't think you're soft," she whispered. "I think you're the sharpest weapon I've ever met." He smiled. "Good, because we're not done yet." A message alert beeped on his comm. Incoming Vornax. Transmission. Return the traitor or face war. Reed looked at Zelara. She was already sitting up, eyes bright with fire. "Let them come," she said. "This time, I'll be ready." She stood up and bowed to a human. The room was silent, dead silent except for the quiet rhythmic beep, beep of the heart monitor. Reed sat beside her once more, his hand gripping the side rail of the medical bed, watching her breathe. Her eyelids twitched, her muscles spasmed. The nanites were still working, but something was changing. Inside her, something was awakening. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, bright gold, fierce, clear. Zelara didn't scream, didn't gasp. She knew. The moment had come. She slid her arm toward the edge of the bed. Her clawed fingers trembled as she reached down, touched her thigh, and felt it. Felt it. Reed's eyes widened as she sat upright, slowly, unsteadily, but no longer, like a broken body. Her spine straightened, her chest rose. He stood up. "Wait, Zell, are you—" She swung her legs off the bed. They dropped to the floor with a soft thud. Then she planted both feet down and stood. No one moved. A nurse who had just entered froze, dropping a med tablet in shock. Zelara stood tall, shoulders square, claws at her sides, like a soldier reporting for war. She took one step forward, then another. Her gait was stiff. Slow, but filled with power. Reed watched her like he was seeing a legend return from the grave. "I told you," she said, voice steady. "I did not come all this way to stay broken." And then, before anyone could speak, Zelara turned to face him fully. She lowered her eyes. She clenched her fist to her chest, and she bowed, low, deep, with meaning. A full, sacred Vornax warrior's bow. The nurse gasped aloud. Even Reed's mouth opened slightly. He shook his head. "That's not necessary." "It is," she cut him off firmly. "You carried my body when it had no strength. You protected my mind when it had no allies. You saw something in me when even I didn't." She stood straight again. "Among my people, the bow is sacred. It means one thing. I owe you my life." Reed swallowed. "I didn't do it for loyalty." "I know," she said. "That's why it matters." News traveled fast. The footage recorded by the medbay's security cam leaked. The galaxy watched in disbelief as a Vornax warrior bowed to a human. Some called it fake, some called it treason, but others called it hope. 3 days later, the Vornax warship arrived outside Outpost 9. Tensions were high. Fighters scrambled, humans readied their defenses, but no shots were fired, because the ship wasn't here to attack, it was here to negotiate. Inside the neutral chamber, Reed stood beside Zelara, both wearing light armor, not for war but for ceremony. A Vornax high commander entered, eyes cold. "You dishonor your clan," he growled at her. She replied calmly, "I define my clan by those who stand with me," and this human stood. The commander's eyes shifted to Reed. "Name your demand, human. Wealth, territory, weapons." Reed glanced at Zelara, then said simply, "Peace." The commander blinked. "What?" "Peace," Reed repeated. "End the bounty, end the war, let her live free." A long pause followed. Then the commander nodded once. "No bounty, no chains. But if she ever turns against us again, She won't, Reed said, and for the first time, the Vornax left without bloodshed. Later, in the outpost garden, Zel Ara stood beside Reed, watching the stars. They'll never fully trust me, she said. He smiled. They don't fully trust me either. She looked at him softer than ever before. So what now, human? We walk, he said. Together. She chuckled. I might even race you. He raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? She smirked. Try not to cry when I win. They both laughed. And beneath the alien sky, a paralyzed warrior who learned to walk again stood side by side with the only human who had dared to lift her up and never let go.